Hello, everyone. This is James Waddell. Today, I'm excited to announce that we are launching a new YouTube channel called Blockchain Review. That could be a little confusing to folks in that we are today broadcasting across a number of media outlets for Cognitive Corp, both on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. You may have seen me or know me from Cognitive Corp, where we have our own blockchain project. So let me try to tie all that together for you. The Cognitive CWX blockchain project is always on the lookout for ecosystem partners that are bringing true innovation into typically the corporate real estate world or other innovations around Web3 to help deliver our core message as a corporation, our core solutions offerings as a corporation. We find many projects that are really and truly delivering innovation. Some of them that we present here on Blockchain Review will be ecosystem partners. Many of them will not be, and we're not going to make a differentiation here on Blockchain Review. Blockchain Innovation Review is for crypto beginners. It is for people who have a fundamental understanding or maybe no understanding of blockchain or crypto. And what we will be bringing to you are the teams responsible for projects that we feel are truly changing the way humans go about being humans. Our typical tagline, solutions for humans being. That being said, here's what we found. We found a very interesting Zach and Cole. Hey guys, how are you today?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Very, very well. Everybody ready to go? Super excited? Very nice.
Oh yeah.
Excellent. So I'm not going to put you guys on the spot and ask you to do a detailed introduction of yourselves. I want to get right into this and ask the first question. Chain Estate DAO, what is it from a crypto beginner perspective? Tell us about your project.
Yeah, Chain Estate DAO is, we call it a physical asset-backed cryptocurrency that allows users to invest into on the blockchain. So there's a lot of barriers to enter in investing in real estate, like a large down payment on a house or different qualifying for a loan. And through doing it on the blockchain, there's no investment minimum, and obviously you don't have to get a loan on a property if you're just buying a token versus an actual property. So we offer easy access to real estate, which is not something that is pretty traditional right now.
So that makes sense to me, right? So I guess in our terms, we're sort of democratizing real estate investments and ownerships.
Yep.
I'm assuming this has something to do with NFT. So maybe in the simplest terms, what is an NFT and how does it relate to your project?
Yeah, so NFTs in a really traditional sense are almost like a trading card because it's something that people collect mostly because they think it's cool and it's a part of some larger collection that they're trying to acquire. And so in this traditional sense of what an NFT is, there's not a lot of intrinsic value to it. It's not tied to a physical asset. Usually it's just like a picture that you purchase and you own it on the blockchain so people can verify that there is this NFT that only you own. But we wanted to actually add real value to the NFTs that are a part of our project. So instead of it just being a picture that somebody owns on the blockchain, kind of like you're owning digital art, we actually have it tied to the properties that we will be purchasing for the DAO. So the way it's going to work is every time the DAO acquires a property, and by DAO I mean our organization, our project, whenever we acquire a property, we will have 100 of these NFTs that are created for that property. And so the image, since every NFT, it stands for non-fungible token, by the way. So it's like a unique token. So whereas the US dollar is not unique, any US dollar is equivalent to another, NFTs are unique. Not every NFT can be associated with another NFT. They're not interchangeable. And so the picture for these is just going to be the home. So that's like the digital art, but it doesn't end there because it actually represents a partial ownership of the cash flow that the property will get through renting out that property. And so because there are 100 of them, each of these non-fungible tokens, each one of these NFTs that somebody owns on the blockchain will get them 1% of the cash flow for renting out the property. So if the property cash flows at $2,000 a month, just as a really simple example, each NFT owner will get $20 every month. And then also if you own more than one NFT, you would get more. So if you own 10 out of the 100 NFTs that are created for the property, you would get $200 a month.
That makes sense to me. So let me just make sure I got it. So, and it's going to be difficult to put that in any simpler terms because I think you said it wonderfully, right? If I were to hold an NFT, that means I am going to receive 1% of the revenue from the investment in that real estate that the DAO is making.
That's right.
And that's, we like to use the word immutable, right? So that record means I own it. I'm receiving 1% of it. If I sell that NFT, then the next person, I guess, who owns it is now eligible for that 1% of the revenue as well. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. There'll be a secondary market where after somebody purchases the NFTs that we list for the property, that the project lists, they can then go and sell that later on. And then the person who owns it after would receive the cash flow from the property that the NFT entitles them to for the next few months or however long they hold it for.
Got it. Let me move us around a little bit, a little bigger this way. Let me kind of go down now to this next question because I think it fits into the conversation point here. Real estate, as the community knows it, I think our audience knows it, is somewhat regulated. So there's the being able to buy, sell real estate requires license. And then from an NFT perspective, in this case, is that regulated and require licensing? So I think there's a conversation to be had here around regulations, licensing, securities. Help us understand how that fits into the project altogether.
Yeah, a big thing that a lot of these real estate cryptocurrency projects are facing is that they are investment securities by the definition of an investment security. So that's kind of this big hurdle that a lot of them are facing, that they have to get registered as an investment security. And that's a pretty long process and very expensive as well. But in order to be compliant and really be here for the long term, that is something that will be done. And because, real estate is so regulated, there's also the question of, well, who's going to keep track of all the transactions and all the other stuff that goes into it, like being licensed to buy and sell it, or broker licenses, and all these different licenses and regulations that you have to comply with. But what we found is that being registered as a security, and then all the transactions for the project, that the revenue that it receives through the transaction tax that actually funds the purchasing of these properties, that's all on the blockchain, which is very traceable. And every transaction you can see is public information. So that in itself is already very public and very transparent from a user side. And then also, as the blockchain gets more and more adopted, transactions such as like paying a realtor fee or for a home appraisal, that stuff could also be on the blockchain, very transparent. For now, though, we'd have to hire an accountant to kind of manage all of our transactions, because there's obviously a lot that goes into it. But as far as like the regulation standpoint, keeping track of that is going to be very key and important. And then also getting registered as an investment security so that it is actually recognized by US law as a legitimate investment is something that we will be doing.
Yeah, just a point of clarification. I know this, but I want to ask for the audience so that they can get an understanding. So are you guys based out of the US as a company and as individuals?
Yes, we are in Minnesota.
There you go. Midwest folks, as am I.
That's right.
So, you've touched on this a little bit, but now I will get a better sense for this. What is the longer term vision for the project that you guys are putting together? I mean, obviously in the short term, what I'm seeing is you're producing some really good deliverables. You have more than a thought. Things seem to be getting done. how do you scale that? What does it look like from a long-term vision perspective?
Yeah, so I think
Go
it's
ahead, Cole.
important. Yeah, it's important to talk about where we are now to then provide context for where we will be going as well. So currently, we don't have any properties yet for the project because we have to raise funds for that. The way we raise funds is there is a 5% transaction fee anytime people trade the Chain Estate DAO token. And so out of that 5%, 3% of that goes to a pool that we'll be using to actually purchase the properties for the DAO, for the project. And so we aren't at the point yet where we have enough to actually purchase the properties. But when we do, that's when the project will really kick off, once we actually start having properties. So we're at a point now where we're releasing products because we've released this token, which has its own utility and will actually be used to purchase the NFT. So that's how you kind of link those two together. The token is the base investment that will then get you into the NFTs and then some other utility we have for the project. And then once we actually have the properties, we will be using our NFT marketplace, which we're actually releasing today, for some other NFTs that aren't associated with properties, because obviously we don't have properties yet. But when we actually get those properties, we'll be releasing the NFTs for the properties on this marketplace. And then users can go and they can, like I mentioned, pay with the Chain Estate token to get these NFTs so that they're then entitled to the cash flow for the first property that we purchase and then with the other properties going forward. And so we're not at that point yet. It'll take a few months to get to that point where we have our first few properties. And then what we're going to do is start with single family homes because they're a good and affordable option. So we're going to raise somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000 for the first property. That's our target for how much we want our first property to cost. And then we'll expand to multifamily homes because those generate better cash flow, but they're obviously more expensive. And then even longer term, we want to get like apartment complexes or office spaces. There's a lot of opportunities we have to expand to other types of real estate as well, just for more of a long-term vision. Obviously, we need a lot more funds for something like an apartment complex, which is why it's a long-term goal. But there's just so many ways that we can expand. And then we also have the opportunity to do sort of like a timeshare system on the blockchain, where we could, instead of purchasing properties where people buy the NFTs to get cash flow, they could buy the NFT to have like a portion, they get to stay at this property for, let's say, like a week out of the year. So it'd be like a separate model where you'd purchase a vacation home, and then instead of selling 100 NFTs, where each one is 1% of the cash flow, we would sell 52 NFTs. And each one of these NFTs would represent a week where they get to stay in this vacation home. And so that's another opportunity to expand. So we're still working with real estate in our project, but it's just another utility for our project, another way that investors can be engaged in everything that we're offering to them.
Man, there's so much there. Go ahead, Zach. I just like you wanted to add. Did I get that right?
Yeah. One more thing I wanted to add is that a lot of people understand real estate as an investment, but not so many people understand cryptocurrency and blockchain and the technology that's involved there. So having a real estate backed cryptocurrency is something that people can actually understand more and get behind. So having that be the door into blockchain investing in cryptocurrencies is going to be pretty massive. And it's going to allow for a lot of mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency as a whole, not just real estate on the blockchain. So we're excited for that too.
I mean, there's so much context I could apply to this in my head, right? So I'm thinking about fractionalized ownership and social equity in terms of being able to not just be a renter, but to own a part of the facility that I'm staying in, the home or the apartment that I'm staying in. It's amazing in timeshare. I hadn't thought about that from a timeshare perspective. You're able to maybe buy and sell in a very decentralized way. Maybe you want to, hop in for a year or two and then hop out. It becomes relatively easy to be able to do that in a decentralized blockchain swap environment, right? I would think.
Yeah.
That's great stuff. Normally right now I would ask, hey, what's your one thought for the viewer to be left with? And I might go there, but I guess I really want to open it up a little bit before that and say, is there something about the project that you want to talk about that we haven't asked yet?
Yeah, I think one really important thing, I keep saying Chain Estate DAO, and I keep referring to the DAO. And that's a concept that's very specific to cryptocurrency, at least the way that most people understand it. What DAO stands for, it's DAO, it's Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And all that means is that it is an organization that's run by the community, by the investors, not just the core team. And that's a part of our name, mostly because it's a goal that we want to reach. There's a lot of centralization in the project still because Zach and I and everybody in the core team for Chain Estate calls a lot of the shots for the project right now. But we have a goal of eventually getting to the point where there can be decisions made end to end for our project without us being involved. So the way we're starting with that right now is we have this contract on the blockchain that allows us to put out polls to the community, or I guess really to our investors, to make decisions on what properties we purchase. It's centralized because we compile this list of the properties that we think the project should purchase once we have the funds acquired. And then the community votes on, out of these 5 or 6 or something like that options, which one they think we should vote on. And the number of votes they have directly correlates to the number of the tokens they hold. So it's another utility for the token we have. Not only do you use it to purchase the actual NFTs that get you the cash flow for the properties, but also it allows you to have voting rights for the project, for the community voting. And so that's our first level of decentralization, where we still call the shots because we work with our realtors to decide which properties we think the project should get. We create a list of options for the investors, and then they can vote out of all those options which one they think is best. And then we also, as a part of our long-term goal, want to move to a contract that instead of it's polling the community, that we actually let them create proposals as to which properties we buy, and then the rest of the investors will vote on those proposals that people have put out as to which properties to purchase. And so in this case, a decision can be made completely end to end as to which property the project acquires without us doing anything. We don't say, here are the properties you can pick from. The community or the investors actually put that forward. And there's a lot of pros and cons to any level of decentralization here. But we are a DAO, we are a decentralized autonomous organization. We want to get to that point where we are really just the face of the project. We're not calling the shots on things. And obviously, real estate and cryptocurrency aren't integrated to the point where we wouldn't actually need to call the shots when it comes to actually purchasing the property. We'd still have to purchase the property that the community, the investors have decided upon. But maybe even in the future, it would get to that point where everything could run on the blockchain, to the point where the community would decide how to spend these funds, and then it would all get spent through some sort of integration with blockchain and real estate that we're not at that point yet. But once we get there, that'd be a really cool thing where the Chain Estate DAO core team, like me and Zach, we would just be completely behind the scenes. We started the project, we got to the point where it is now, and then the community just takes care of the rest. The investors, they decide which properties to purchase. Everything is done automatically. That's the dream.
Let me build on that, because I had a thought that occurred to me as you were explaining that. It all makes perfect sense. If a property had maybe requested some level of an upgrade, I don't know, maybe it's a back deck or new carpet or something, is that something that the DAO would vote on as a mechanism? How, have you thought about what that might look like?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the owners of the NFTs for a property, they would vote on things like that. So they
Okay.
vote on renovations or raising rent, something like that. The only thing we don't want them to be able to vote on is actually selling the property. There's not really a benefit to selling properties. It's an investment. It's an asset that we would own that generates revenue. And so we want to keep that in our project's portfolio. But everything else, like raising rent or the renovations, like you mentioned, would be something that the NFT owners of the property could vote on.
And that's unique to each property, not for the overall community for your blockchain project. I think that's a good idea.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me go to this question now. Zach, I'm going to start with you, working from left to right. What's the one thought you would like viewers to be left with who are reviewing this either live or in our future recorded sessions? What's the one thing you want them thinking about?
Yeah, sure. Fractionalized real estate ownership obviously allows tons of people the ability to partake in real estate investing now. And with all of the options available on the blockchain to branch out to like a timeshare model, just the regular cash flow NFTs, or even eventually when we have all of these assets in our portfolio, we can do a lending program using the homes as collateral. So that's another thing, just as an option that's in the future. But with this, think of it kind of like, if I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Fundrise, but taking Fundrise and putting it on the blockchain, so it's even less frictionless. Like how big and what are the possibilities of that? Because that's pretty massive. Fundrise is a $1 billion company, I believe, and it's pretty exciting to think of like how truly massive and big of a future innovation that this is going to be. So we're excited.
Good. And then now, Cole, same for you, bud. What one thought would you like the viewer to be left with who's watching this live or on the recorded session?
Yeah, so to kind of add on to what Zach was saying, he was talking about just how cool it is for real estate to be on the blockchain. I want to talk about just how useful blockchain is in general. I think really we're heading in the direction of the Web3 space, the blockchain technology. That's going to dominate every industry at some point, some sooner than others. But in the end, using technology to create these trustless models is just an incredible thing. And so we want to jump on this early, and that's why we've created this project, Chain Estate DAO, because every industry, well, that includes real estate. And so we want to be the pioneers of getting real estate integrated with the blockchain. And like I said, the dream that we have, it really relies on real estate getting more integrated with blockchain. But I really believe that's going to happen just because of how every single industry is going to get dominated by Web3 at some point. It's going to become integral to real estate. It's going to become integral to supply chain. It's going to become integral to banking, any industry you could think of.
Well said, sir. I don't think I could have said that any better myself. Hey, I see that we're basically out of time. We try to keep these to 15 to 20 minutes to make them very digestible. Thank you, Chain Estate DAO, Zach and Cole, for being on the show. I'm going to do a quick close, and then that'll wrap our show. So I'm going to put you guys over in the green room. Thank you again. Oh, I will say that if you would like to reach out to Zach or Cole, I'm going to have their information in the notes just below. I will also include a link to their website so you can do your own research. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. Blockchain Innovation Review. This is our first one. It's more of an introduction to what we intend to do into the future. If you know of someone that may have a blockchain project that is innovative, that's truly delivering, would be happy to talk to them. Please let them know that we exist. If you're on YouTube, like the channel, of course, as all the YouTubers say. I'm an old guy, so I got to say it that way. Thank you for watching either the recorded session or on LinkedIn as well. And look forward to the next one. Thanks again.